Okay, I am so sorry. I accidentally hit the stop button in the after the first video. I'm not sure what I was trying to do, but I reached over and just hit the stop button. So I'm going to pick back up. I'm at August 7th on page 76. Nisha just told us that Emil is snoring. Okay, he always falls asleep quickly the moment his head touches the pillow. Not me. It takes me a long time, even on a night like this, though it's easier with the diary. After I finish, it's like the part of me that can't fall asleep. The part that's staring at the cracks on the ceiling, wondering and worrying, is emptied in the diary for the night. During the day, I fill back up and the pages wait. I like to think you're holding my thoughts for me until I can tend to them again. I'm too sleepy now. It will have to wait. Good night, Mama. Love, Nisha. August 7th. Dear Mama, I fell asleep for a few hours and woke with a start. I don't know why. Then I started thinking about the party, and these thoughts won't leave me alone until I tell you. Emil is breathing so deeply, only an earthquake would wake him. I wish I could sleep like that. Most of the party was wonderful, until the last part. I think you would have been so proud of Papa. I will remember it forever. We made so much food we could have another party tomorrow. Rice, lots of different curries, dal, kebab, puri, paratha, samosa, mango pickle, gulab jamun, and rasmali. It was so much work that Dottie didn't mind I was in the kitchen all day helping Kazi with everything. I made the sai bhaji all by myself, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. He let me use his mortar and pestle to ground up the cumin, coriander, and ginger. I curdled the milk and tied the cheesecloths for the rasmalai. I made bowls of thick raita with cucumbers from the garden. I chopped onions with a stick in my teeth and didn't even cry. My fingernails were stained yellow from the turmeric when I dressed in my best salwar kameez, and I didn't even try to wash it off. The kameez has a dark pink and green design with gold trim and a pink salwar to go with it. I haven't worn it in a year, but it still fits. It even has a pink chiffon dupatta with little gold tassels that I can wrap around my neck or drape over my head. I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror for a long time. Mama, I've always thought I looked like Papa and Emil looks like you, but today I could see you in my face, in the curve of my mouth when I smiled. I have a little space between my two front teeth just like you do. I wondered why I was just noticing this. Then I put a little of Dottie's kohl on my eyes to make them more like yours and hoped Papa wouldn't notice. If he did, he was too busy to say anything. Many girls wear kohl, but Papa is very strict about those things. Sometimes I think he forgets I'm a girl. I haven't ever seen Papa move around so much in our house the way he did today. It was the strangest thing. He straightened furniture and dusted. He tasted all the food to make sure it was seasoned properly. He took out a small red and blue woven carpet I never knew we had and placed it at the front door. He also asked Emil to sweep the floors and wash the windows. Emil didn't complain. Papa even set out candles and lit incense. When everything was ready, we stood by the door and people began to tumble in with wide smiles, wearing their best clothes, arms full of flowers and sweets, rose perfume floating in the air. So many people came, many of our neighbors, my uncles, my aunties, my cousins, Dr. Ahmed and his family. How are you, my dear? Look how big you are. How beautiful you've gotten. How are you doing in school? Are you eating enough? The aunties asked, their questions flying out for me to grab hold of. But I didn't catch any of them. I just smiled and let their words rush past me. But they never seemed to mind. I received lots of wet lipstick kisses on my cheeks, which made me feel disgusted and loved as I turned to secretly rub off their marks. I wonder what it feels like to have words come out of your mouth that you don't even have to think about, that you don't have to take 5 deep breaths before you even shape your mouth around the first letter and push the word out with your tongue. When Dr. Ahmed arrived, he presented me and Emil with 2 tiny gold coins. He closed them in our palms and told us to always be well. His eyes seemed moist. I quickly looked down at my feet, pressed my hands together, and bowed my head. Emil did the same, thanked him, and we ran off to put the coins in our room. My cousins and the neighborhood children crowded around me and Emil until we took them outside to the best spot for cricket. The boys played a match while the girls sat and wove necklaces out of the flowering weeds around us. We took turns running back into the house for food and drinks and then out again, sometimes bringing a napkin full of snacks. Every time I went in, I saw Papa sitting on the floor, surrounded by men, talking, laughing, eating, and smoking. Again, just like when I was at the market, I wondered how anything could be wrong if our neighborhood could still have a party like this. Kazi stayed in the kitchen, only coming out to refill a bowl of food. I poked my head in, but he shooed me out quickly. Once I was waved over to sit with my aunties while I ate a samosa. I ate it slowly, savoring the crispy outside, tingling with the tart green chutney I dipped it in. One of my aunties told me I needed to fatten myself up and have more food. Another gently reached over and pinched my cheek. But mostly they talked to one another about what flowers were growing well this time of year and who was having a baby and who was getting married. Nobody talked about the changes happening all around us. I looked into their busy, glittery eyes as they spoke, wrists jingling with bangles. What were they really thinking, Mama? Outside, Emil was awful at cricket as usual, his skinny arms barely able to make a solid hit or throw. But this was just a party game, nothing serious. We girls put on our flower necklaces. I laughed out loud as we held hands and danced in circles. When my cheeks felt warm and rosy, my head a little dizzy from the dancing, my belly happily stuffed with samosas, I whispered to my cousin Molly, who had her arm around my shoulders, "I'll miss you when we go, but maybe we'll still live close." "Go where?" she said, and stopped dancing. Then all the girls stopped dancing and stared at me. This is what usually happens when I talk, the exact opposite of what I want to happen. When Emil talks, he usually has to yell over people and say things again and again to get anyone to pay attention. "The new India," I murmured. "What do you mean?" she said, looking alarmed. I thought everyone knew more than I did. I wondered if I had told a terrible secret. I wiped my forehead and shrugged. She waited for me to say something else, but I couldn't. "Excuse me." My mouth pressed closed. My body felt limp and tired. She cocked her head to the side. I felt my courage to speak go out like a flame. "Tell me," she said again in a soft voice, but it didn't matter how quietly she said anything. "Tell me," she said louder. Sabine suddenly spoke up. "Don't you know? All the Hindus and Sikhs have to leave. We are supposed to stay," she stated plainly. She looked at the other girls, but no one said anything more. Molly looked like she might cry and ran inside calling her mother. I stood frozen. The other girls watched me for a few more seconds to see if I was going to say anything else, and when I didn't, they resumed their dance without me in it, but not with the same energy. I decided to go inside. Maybe a sweet would make me feel better. I walked in and saw Molly sitting next to Deepu Auntie in the corner. Auntie was rubbing her back, soothing her. They both looked upset. When I saw Papa talking with Rupa's uncle and my other uncle Raj, then I saw Papa talking with Rupa's uncle and my other uncle Raj. They spoke excitedly, waving their arms around. Then Rupa's uncle hugged Papa hard and walked over to Molly and Auntie. They got up, said a few goodbyes to others, not me, and slipped out the door. Raj's uncle's family followed. Maybe they didn't see me, or maybe they didn't want to see me. Was it the last time I would ever see them? When they left, it was like a plug being pulled. The joy started to drain out. A frantic feeling started to grow, travel through my body, as if I was supposed to find that plug, put it back in, and stop whatever was happening. I wanted to go back to the beginning of the party. I wondered what Papa was saying to people, but I didn't dare go near. There was more hugging. When Dr. Ahmed left, he and Papa held on to each other's arms for a long time, saying quiet things and nodding. Papa stood at the door silently for a minute after he left and wiped his eyes. Was he crying? I couldn't tell. Papa turned and saw me hiding near the kitchen. He waved me over to the door. I reluctantly came. One by one, our last guests gave Papa, Dottie, me, and Emil long hugs that started to make my shoulders hurt. My flower necklace got crushed. Many people whispered in my ear things like, "Be safe," and "Be strong." I had known it all along that it was a goodbye party, but now I felt the truth sink down into my stomach like a pile of coal. That's Charlie snoring if you hear him in the background, my puppy. Well, he's old. He's 50. He's not a puppy. After everyone went home, Emil and I lay on our beds quietly. I told Molly that we were leaving, and she didn't know. I thought everyone knew. I spoke into the balmy darkness. I could still smell the scent of spices, perfume, and incense swirling around in the air. I did too, Emil said. I think I ruined the party when I told her. It was already ruined, Emil said. His words were slow and heavy. What do you mean? I asked him. I don't know. It just seems so sad from the beginning. Really? I didn't think so. Emil said nothing back and closed his eyes. When his breathing grew deep and rhythmic, I got up and tiptoed out of the room. My heart pounded. I was supposed to stay in my room after bedtime. I always heard Papa and Dottie, and sometimes even Kazi, clinking around, and usually it was enough to comfort me. But tonight I needed to see someone. I peered around the corner and saw Papa sitting at the table alone, drinking a cup of tea, staring out before him. I walked closer and stood near the table facing him. I can't sleep, I said. He narrowed his eyes at me and was silent for a few moments. Neither can I, he finally said, and patted the table. Get some warm milk. I relaxed and went into the kitchen. I lit the stove and warmed some milk in a little pan with cardamom seed. When it was steamy, I poured it into a teacup and came to the table. We sat quietly. Did you enjoy the party? Papa finally asked me. I nodded. Then I took a deep breath and said, I'm sorry I told Molly we were leaving. Papa looked at me and took a sip of his tea. It's time Molly knew. You're old enough now to understand, and so is Molly. I nodded, Mama, but I don't really understand. It's one thing to understand facts and another thing to understand why those facts are facts. I sat for a little while more with Papa. It was strange to be alone with him, and I realized I hardly ever was. I studied his face, his wide nose, his round cheeks, the lines in his forehead, his eyes squinting at his heavy thoughts as he sipped. I couldn't imagine Papa as a child, carefree and playful. It was like he was born an adult, a father, a doctor. There was one thing I did understand. I would have memories of life here in Mir Prakash and memories of life in the new India. My childhood would always have a line drawn through it, the before and the after. Love, Nisha. Okay, page 87, August 8th, 1947. Dear Mama, it's the day after the party, but it's like nothing has changed. Papa went to work. Emil and I wandered around trying to think of stuff to do. I helped Kazi cook. Sometimes Dottie would ask us to sweep or wash or fold or put away. After we'd go out and sit on a blanket in the garden to draw and read. I've been reading some of Papa's medical books. Papa likes it, I can tell. He stands over me to see what part I'm reading, nods, and walks away. Maybe he thinks I'll be a doctor one day, even though I hate blood and bad smells and the actual insides of bodies. I just want to know what people are thinking. Maybe if I understand how the body works, if I know what every part of it looks like inside, I'll understand more. I study the heart, the ventricles, the arteries, the bones, the liver, the kidneys, the spleen, the lungs, the blood that runs through the veins. I study the brain, the weird coiled blob that holds everyone's secrets. Is it the brain that makes me quiet sometimes? That makes Emil see letters every which way? Is it the brain that makes people love and hate? Or is it the heart? Love, Nisha. And there was your quote for diary entry number 1. Okay, is it the brain that makes people love and hate? Or is it the heart? Ponder that and then move on. Okay, August 15th, 1947. So we've skipped several days. Remember, our last one was August 8th. Now we're at August 15th. Dear Mama, it's happening now. Sorry I haven't written you for 6 whole days. The last few days have blended into one. There has been packing and Dottie trying to hide her crying and lots of stern explaining from Papa. Charlie. Emil keeps running from Papa to Dottie to Kazi asking questions. I am silent. No words of mine could change anything. Papa tells us with change, good and bad things will come. At midnight, while we were sleeping, India became independent from British rule. At the same moment, Pakistan, a new country, now exists. Where I live is not called India anymore. I'm still not sure what it means to be free from British rule. Papa says they have ruled over India for almost 100 years, excuse me. I don't feel British at all. English children from the books or newspapers I've seen don't look like I do. They have light skin. They wear different clothes. I know Papa drinks English tea and has English biscuits. I know that there is a British guard who stands outside the Mirpurkhas City Hospital. I know that we have British furniture in our bungalow, like the upholstered wooden chairs in the sitting room, and our large oval dining table and English china. I also know that the British aren't going to be the rulers anymore, and I guess we don't like British people telling us what to do. Will Papa drink different tea? Will the guard leave? Will we have to give back the chairs and table? Pakistan was for the Muslims, and everybody else will go to India, which isn't here anymore. I wondered if any Hindus were staying anyway. Emil asked Papa the same question, but Papa says it's not safe and the fighting will probably get worse. All non-Muslims in Mirpurkhas have to leave, and the Muslims in the new India are coming here. Papa says it was a group decision between Lord Mountbatten for the British, Jinnah for the Muslims, and Nehru for everyone else. They all agreed to the partition. Emil asked if Gandhi was part of that group. Papa said that Gandhi wants a united India, that we are all Indian no matter what faith we follow. But it doesn't matter now, he says. The decisions have been made, and we must make the best of it and go peacefully. So as of today, the ground I'm standing on is not India anymore. And Kazi is supposed to live in one place, and we're supposed to leave and find a new home. Is there a Muslim girl sitting in her house right now who has to leave her home and go to a new country that's not even called India? Does she feel confused and scared too? But here's the question that is most on my mind. I'm afraid to say it, even afraid to write it down. I don't want to think about the answer, but my pencil needs to write it anyway. If you were alive, would we have to leave you because you are Muslim? Would they have drawn a line right through us, Mama? I don't care what the answer is. We came from your body. We will always be a part of you, and this will always be my home, even if it's called something else. Love, Nisha. August 16th, 1947. Dear Mama, I saw the newspaper on Papa's desk. There were pictures of people celebrating on both sides, India and Pakistan. But it's still two sides of the same country to me. I don't feel like celebrating. The headline said, Birth of India's Freedom, and Nation Wakes to New Life, and Frenzied Enthusiasm in Bombay. But all births are not happy, like me and Emil. Ours wasn't. We lived and you died. It must have been a terrible day for Papa when we were born. I wonder if he even loved us then. I wonder if it's hard to love us all the way now. It's like India, a new country is born, but my home is dying. Nobody is celebrating freedom in our house. I must pack my things. I must leave all my books, our rugs and tables and bookshelves and Papa's desk, and most of the stuff in the kitchen, except for a few pots and pans and dry food are staying behind. I heard Papa telling Dottie there are riots everywhere, and if we don't leave, we could be killed or taken to a refugee camp. Who would do this? Our neighbors? The kids we went to school with? The merchants at the market? Patients who Papa treated at the hospital? My teacher? Dr. Ahmed. Papa says that everyone is killing one another now. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs. Everyone is to blame. He says that when you separate people into groups, they start to believe that one group is better than another. I think about Papa's medical books and how we all have the same blood and organs and bones inside us, no matter what religion we're supposed to be. I went into my room to pack. Emil had already finished. He only packed his paper, pencils, and some clothes. We are allowed to take one sack each. We will take the train to the border tomorrow and then change trains to go to Jodhpur, our new home. Papa said a carriage will take us to the train. I put in my clothes, 3 pencils to write with, this diary, and all of your jewelry that I keep inside, a little silk spice sack. Papa says I can't wear it anymore, that people might try to take it. I put in Dr. Ahmed's gold coin, too. I also put in a pinch of dirt from our garden, so I'll always have a bit of the ground you walked on. A piece of my India. Love, Nisha. August 17th, 1947. Dear Mama, it's definite. Papa told us this morning that Kazi is not coming with us tomorrow. I kept hoping there was a way, but Papa says it's too dangerous and Kazi says he can't. Couldn't he just say he's Hindu and dress in Papa's clothes? Tonight we had a quick dinner of paratha and dal, since most things are packed or given away. Causey made my favorite kind of dal with red lentils and mustard seeds that pop in my mouth. While he prepared it, I sat on the wooden stool, swinging my legs. I didn't want to help, not tonight. I knocked on the counter so he'd look at me, not sure if I could say his name out loud. He looked up as he crushed the cumin with his mortar. "What is it, Nishi?" he asked. I looked down and bit my lip hard. "You have to come with us," I murmured, and my voice broke. The tears started to fall. I wiped them quickly away. "It's okay, Nishi," he said. "I've been crying too," he said, handing me a small towel. I looked at him in surprise. "I have, but I could make you all a target if I come." "People think they are defending themselves, standing up for their people, but it's all out of fear," he told me. "How would people know if you dressed in Papa's clothes and said you were Hindu?" I asked him, my voice stronger now. "People have a way of finding out these things. I'd have to change my name. I'd need fake paperwork. It's too dangerous." "So you aren't coming with us because of fear?" I said without thinking. "You should speak more, Nishi. You're a wise child. Probably because you've spent so much time listening instead of talking." My face felt hot, burning. "Yes, it's fear. Mostly for you, not me. If something happened to any of you because I was there, I wouldn't be able to live with myself." I squeezed my hands into fists and tried to keep the tears back. Kazi went on. He told me he would look after the house, that maybe we might come back someday. He didn't look at me anymore and poured the cumin powder into a little bowl. He washed the mortar and pestle and dried it. I sat quietly and watched, my throat feeling thick and scratchy. Then he held out the mortar and pestle and asked me to take it. I shook my head. If I took it, that would mean I was really saying goodbye. I couldn't lose him. I wouldn't. He pressed it into my hands and told me to think of him every time I used it. "Don't forget what I've taught you. Making food always brings people together," he said. While we're at home, not able to go to school and very limited in where we can go, think of ways that you can help in the kitchen, that you and your parents, whoever cooks at your house, or you and your brothers and sisters, what food y'all can make together. Okay, page 96. I ran my hands over the smooth white marble. The center of the mortar bowl was stained a golden brown from all the spices that had been crushed in there. I put it back on the counter and shook my head. I felt my body shaking. He pushed it toward me again. "Even if you don't take it," he went on to say, "I will have to stay and you will have to leave. It won't change anything." I grabbed it and ran out of the kitchen. I wrapped it tight in a shawl and stuffed it into my bag before Papa could see it and tell me not to carry such a heavy thing. We were very quiet at dinner, and after, as Kazi was cleaning up, Emil ran over to him and hugged him hard. Papa looked up with glassy eyes and stared at Kazi. Then Papa shooed Emil away. I couldn't hug Kazi. I was too sad. I got up and followed Emil, who ran outside to the garden. He sat on the end of the rows of spinach and tore at the leaves, stuffing a few in his mouth. "Who's going to eat all this spinach? Kazi won't be able to," he said to me. We sat quietly for a minute or two. The sun had started to set. I could hear the rustling of birds and insects and other creatures settling into the evening. Some going to sleep, some walking. "Do you think we'll ever see Kazi again?" Emil asked. I didn't want to answer either way. I was afraid we wouldn't. But that would be the same as Kazi dying, wouldn't it? "I don't even believe we're leaving," I said. Then I whispered, "I feel like we're leaving Mama too, because she was here in this house. But our new home, she won't be there." "She isn't here either, no matter what stupid stories you've made up in your head." "I'm not making up stories," I yelled back at him. Emil jumped. Then I started to cry again, and Emil looked away. He suddenly got up and ran back into the house. He was probably scared of me. I felt ashamed and lonely, Mama. Mama, if you were here, would you have sat next to me and held me? Would you have loved me more than all of them?" Emil came running back with a handkerchief and held it out to me. My body relaxed. I thanked him, relieved he hadn't left me all alone. I took the kerchief and wiped my nose and eyes, my chest feeling a little lighter. "We never knew her. What's the point of thinking about her?" Emil said. I nodded. It was okay that he felt that way. He must love you deep inside, but I kind of like having you all to myself. I feel like I do know you, because I know myself and you made me. I'm going to take you with me, closed up tight in this diary and in the little pouch with the dirt and your jewelry. I do sometimes. You do think about Mama? I said. A little. She looks so pretty in her picture. I bet she would have been different from. But she stopped talking. Different from what? I asked. But I knew what he was going to say. Different from Papa. See, Mama, he does love you. It's just harder for him to say it. I wonder sometimes if Emil feels things as big as I do. He uses his body more to move, to talk, so everything isn't locked up inside the way it is with me. Sometimes I wish I were Emil. Is that strange, Mama? Wanting to be a boy? It just seems like it would be easier. But then I guess Papa wouldn't like me as much. Emil sat back down next to me and leaned against my shoulder. I could feel the warmth from his body that was always moving. He sat very still, though, as we watched the sun go down over our garden for the last time. Love, Nisha. That's it. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.